Okay, let's go to our nonprofit leadership studio. Mayor Turner's here with us. Mayor Turner, if you're writing a book on leadership, what are some of the chapters for you?
The importance of collaboration would be one. What is your purpose? Your purpose, your mission. And then once you define what your purpose, your mission is, what is your blueprint to achieve your purpose? How do you measure success? Accountability. Okay. And one chapter would be, why are you doing what you're doing? Because you can define the purpose, you can put forth the blueprint, but if you're not in it for the right reason, your mission can become distorted.
Now, you've been a leader in the state legislature for a long time, and I remember back in the day when I voted for you the first time you ran for mayor, right? And where I think you were hoodwinked into some sort of little thing. But I remember thinking it didn't seem fair to me, whatever was the deal. But that idea of being a mayor, was that always, because you were a significant leader in the state legislature, but the idea of being a mayor, was that something that you'd always wanted to do?
Quite frankly, the answer is no.
Oh.
There's no. In fact, I went to the legislature in 1989 and started in 89 and no thoughts of being mayor. But I would tell you in the legislature, freshman, I was placed on 2 committees that were totally non-consequential to the process. And I was bored, okay? That was in 89.
Yeah.
But and even then I was saying, okay, now why am I here? Because I went back in 91 and the speaker at that time put me on the same 2 committees again, and I was bored. And so I was talking to one of the legislators on the floor, and I said to her, I said, look, this is really wasting my time, And we got to talking about things at the city of Houston. And so it was Karen Connolly. She was the state representative out of San Antonio. So she said, well, why don't you think about running for mayor? So I said, I don't know about all that. And I started really looking more at it, and then decided to run in 91. Okay, enjoyed the race, didn't win. Thought about returning, not returning. I decided to go back again in 1993. I returned to the legislature, and we had a speaker's race just before that session started. And one of the guys who I started with, who's Robert Janelle, he was state representative out of San Angelo in West Texas, asked me to join with him and others to elect Speaker Pete Laney for the Speaker of the Texas House. And Pete Laney won. And I was a part of the team to help get him there. And my whole trajectory, I would say, in the legislature changed in 1993. And when I went in to visit with him, he said, Sylvester, what committees you want to serve on? And I told Pete, I said, well, Pete, he said, well, do you want to be a chairman? I said, Pete, I'm not interested in being a chairman, but if I'm going to be a chairman, make me the chairman of Appropriations, State Affairs, or calendars.
Yeah, calendars, yeah.
And so he said, oh, I can't do that, Sylvester. So I said, fine. Then if you don't question my work ethic, then put me on all 3 at the same time. He said, I don't know if that's been done, but he did. Well, that changed my involvement in the legislature. I wanted to be right in the thick of things.
Yeah,
you were. Have a say on whatever comes through. Of course, if you're on appropriation, that touches on pretty much everything. Calendars touches on everything. And then state affairs, dealt with a lot of the statewide initiatives. And I enjoyed my stay in the legislature. I ran again then for mayor in 2003. I'm a native Houstonian, love the city. And 3 people ran. I came in number 3. And I knew, Bob, I just felt that I was going to win in 2003. But that didn't happen. And then I decided to return to the legislature and said, look, this is my purpose. This is where I'm supposed to be. So let me now just focus 100% on the legislature, and that's what I did. I never intended to run for mayor again.
Wow.
And so when some people came to me in 2014, asking me about running for mayor in 2015 after East Parking Lot, I told them, look, I've been there, done that, and I don't have to be mayor. You know, I'm enjoying my stay in the legislature. But then when I made a decision to retire from the legislature, which had nothing to do with the mayor's race, I made a decision that after 25 years, I was going to wave goodbye and return back to the law practice, you know, full-time basis. And that's when some people came to me again and said, look, you're not going to be in the legislature. You decided that you're going to retire. Why don't you take a look at the mayor's deal? And then I did and decided to run.
Wow. Let's take a step back, Mayor Turner, and your own background. You grew up here in Houston,
right.
Acres Homes.
Right.
And did you think you would be going to college when you were a kid? I mean, did your family have a background of going to college? What was your family background?
Neither one of my parents graduated from high school. Okay. My dad died early when I was 13. My mom was a maid at the Rice Hotel downtown, rearing 9 kids. But both of them really preached education.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they said to all of their kids, you know, the key to your success is through the educational system. And so they really emphasized the importance of education, although neither one of them graduated from high school. And so even after my dad died, my mom continued to push, you know, education, education, education. And then when I end up in Acres Home, they end up closing my elementary and intermediate school, Garden City Elementary Junior High. Closed it, and then we were bused from Garden City and Acres Home to Klein High School on the other side of on Stubner and Louetta, 18 miles one way from where I live. 18 miles one way, 36 miles a day.
Did you graduate from Klein High School?
I graduated from Klein Intermediate, and then I graduated from Klein High School.
Wow, I didn't know that about you. Yeah.
And then debated for the entire 4 years in high school. District debate champ each one of those 4 years. Each one of those years while I was there. And I ended up going to University of Houston because they had a nationally ranked debate team.
And
that's why I went from Klein High School directly to University of Houston.
And from U of H, did you go straight to Harvard Law?
And from U of H, went straight. I turned down Harvard. I was heading to University of Texas Law School. And Frank Medina and I, we were going to be roommates at University of Texas. And the reason I'd never been to Harvard. Never been, never went to see. I got the letter, didn't mean a whole lot to me. So, but University of Texas, and then there were 2 professors on the campus of University of Houston, Professor Karp and Dr. Rogers, who took me to lunch and said, is it true that you turned down Harvard? And I said, yeah. They said, can you tell us why? I said, look, I grew up in the state. This is where I'm going to be. The University of Texas is a great law school. They said, have you ever been to Harvard? I said, no. They said, so you're just not going to go? I said, there's no reason for me to go. So that's when they both said to me, look, Sylvester, you leave here and go over to the library at University of Houston. Read about Harvard Law School. We think you're making a mistake. And I did. And then I subsequently called and said, I want to change my mind. Can I come? And what they said is that, they said, yes, you can come, but since we're on a rolling admit and you're changing your mind now, it's April. That we don't have dorm space and your financial aid will be limited. What you would have been entitled to, it'll have to be now straight loans. And they said, do you still want to come? And I went back and talked to Dr. Rogers and Professor Karp, and they said, we still think you ought to go.
Oh, okay.
And I did, and I ended up staying for a few weeks with Diana Escobedo, who was over the Women's Student Association on the campus of the University of Houston. She had married a guy from Harvard College.
Yeah.
Stayed with them for a couple of weeks in their apartment until they connected me with another roommate and lived off campus, but made it happen.
So I want to ask you this question about that, and then I want to go to the Twitterverse here and see what students are asking. But I was a first-generation college student, and just going to college sort of opened up. Just going,
Right.
But then I went to an Ivy League graduate school, and it seemed like even more. I mean, was it the same for you?
Same.
Did Harvard sort of change your universe in many ways?
Absolutely. It broadened my universe exponentially. Okay. It was a whole new world for me, to be honest with you. I enjoyed my stay at the University of Houston, but when I got to Harvard, it was a different universe, for me. So much so, I was carrying my lunch to school at Harvard, but no one else was, they were going to lunch with other folks.
Yeah.
And I went to the financial aid director, Dr. Ruiz, who was over financial aid, and I said, these students here, they're not bringing their lunch. They're going to lunch. But what I got in financial aid, I can't afford to do that. And I remember her to this day. She looked at me and she said, young man, at this school, it is all about experience and relationships. So we don't want you to feel as though you cannot be a part of, so to speak. So she said, I tell you what, I'm going to increase your financial aid. And it'll be in your bank account the very next day. She did. And then I was going to lunch. Hell, I was inviting people to lunch. And in some cases, paying for it. So it changed my whole universe until 3 years later when it came time for me to graduate and I had my exit interview. And I went before Dr. Ruiz again. And she showed me the paper. She said, now this is what you're going to owe.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I said, hell,
well, hopefully you made some good relationships at the very least.
Relationship
right?
excellent.
Yeah, very good. All right, let me, we have a lot of students that have sent some stuff in. Here's a good one. Ashley Yarborough wants to know, what qualities do you look for when you're putting together your own team, your own leadership team? What are the things you like to see?
I want to see people who are very result-oriented. People, number one, people who are capable. They think. Analysis is important.
Yeah.
They can think through the problem, and that they work towards a solution and not just look at something and say no. I'm not interested in people who can readily say no, and I'm not looking. I look for people who want to take on the hard assignment. I mean, they want to be a part of it. They want that hard problem to solve, and they find a way to get it done. What I don't like people who look at it and say to me, "This is the way it's been done, so Mayor, you can't do it." I will dismiss you quickly. Okay, don't give me an answer based on what has been. I want you to tell, this is the problem. Now find me a solution. And there is a solution. Okay. Now you may have to go another route, or you may have to be creative and innovative in your thinking. But if we have a problem, there is an answer.
Absolutely.
And you need to find me that answer.
So you want people around you who are going to be able to do that.
And I want someone around me who will challenge me. If I want to go this way, I don't want people to say, okay, we're all going this way because the mayor said we're going this way. No, that I lose confidence in you. But and I like people who don't mind, who are confident enough and believe in what they're saying, that they will say, Mayor, with all due respect, this is what we think. This is, so don't go with me just because I'm saying go. I mean, I know I've got a strong personality, and so I want people around me who are looking out for what's in the best interest and are willing to speak up and say, no, that's not. We disagree, or I would take this mayor and do A, B, and C, or that can work, but this is a better solution, or if we do this, this is going to make the situation worse. And then I look for people who are willing, who collaborative in their thinking.
Yeah.
So I'm very big on collaboration. Very, very big on that.
And sometimes it's hard to collaborate, but the results are so much better when we do.
They're so much better.
Yeah.
I think the two of us can come up with a better solution than just with me by myself.
Yeah.
It's not to say that I may not have a good answer,
Right.
but it may not be the best answer.
Yeah.
So if we collaborate between the two of us, I think we can come up with the best answer, the best solution. And so I'm very big on collaboration.
Very good. Latrice has a good question. So we saw during Hurricane Harvey, you stayed very positive, so that your demeanor was very positive. Behind the scenes, were you sometimes sort of getting upset and sort of maybe with your confidants, sort of like, we need to do this?
And the answer is yes. I'm not gonna, yeah. But when you get out front and people are in a crisis, I think they look for their leaders to be calm and assuring. Mm-hmm. And they want
That's right. Yeah.
And they want you to have the answers, and they want those answers to be well thought out. And that doesn't mean to say that you'll be right all the time, but they at least want to feel as though you're in control and you're making the best decision with the information that you have available for you before you at that point in time. And they don't want you to be indecisive. Mm-hmm. And they don't want you to be going up and down in your demeanor. Mm-hmm. They simply want you to be calm. Yeah. Because in the crisis, they want to feel as though who's running this ship is in control and knows exactly where we're going. And that's important. Now, behind the room, when you're dealing with your team, sometimes, you have to be a little bit more emotive when you're dealing with them. Because sometimes in order to get the best out of them, you got to push them a little bit harder. Yeah. Okay, and they have to understand that this is important. And even then, when you do that, what I tell people, sometimes you have to apply the gas, and then even then you have to come back and put on the brake. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you got to raise your voice a little, and then sometimes you got to come and you got to pat people on the back. Yeah. And just like you can be critical, you also have to thank people when they've done things well. Yeah. Okay? Because you never want to push people away that they don't want to come. And you never want to put people in a position that they lose their own confidence. Mm-hmm. Okay? So you have to find a way to pull the best out of people. Yeah. And then be prepared, be willing to share the success with them.
One of the things that I've seen a lot of leaders here, and especially when I started doing this a couple of years ago, a lot of women leaders would talk about one of the important things for them was listening. And I almost, I learned from that. I don't think I was necessarily a good listener. And then I heard so many people say listening was so important. But I've noticed, every time that I've met with you over the years, you've been a listener. How did you learn as a leader to be a listener?
And I think that just goes back to when I was in the debate program. Ah. Okay? Because even as a debater, Nancy Madeline, she was my debate coach in high school, listening was important. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because as she would say, if you're not listening, you're missing. Mm-hmm. And you can't respond to something you did not hear. Mm-hmm. So, Sylvester, are you listening? Okay? And so, sometimes you'll say you're talking about something, but that's not what the person said. Mm-hmm. Okay? So you have to be responsive. What you're saying is not responsive to what somebody said. And so a part of it is listening. And sometimes you got to restrain yourself from talking. Okay? Yeah. Because if you over-talk yourself, then there's somebody who may have the answer, but you're not allowing them an opportunity to say something. Yeah. So even if you think you have the answer, you just have to hold yourself back.
Yeah, I think it's a great quality. Yeah. Marcial and Champion wants to know, are there other cities that you look for inspiration for Houston, and other mayors, other political leaders around the country that you sort of think, let me see what they're doing?
Look, Mayor, Astros are playing the Los Angeles Dodgers, but I would tell you Mayor Garcetti is an excellent mayor in LA. He's very innovative in his thinking. You know, he's real big on innovations and technology, real big. He's real big on climate control, okay? He heads the Mayors on Climate Initiative. He asked me to co-chair with him. So I'm really big, real big on Mayor Garcetti. Mayor Walsh out of Boston.
Yeah.
I mean, is a very strong leader, very collaborative, and he looks even beyond. Even during Hurricane Harvey, he was one of the first who contacted me.
Oh, wow.
Mayor Walsh out of Boston sent the city of Houston 9 truckloads of supplies and said to me, and whatever else you need, it will be on the way.
That's got to be helpful, right? When you hear that from other mayors and other leaders like that.
Yeah,
that's a really nice thing.
That's been great. Mayor Hancock out of Denver is doing some incredible things. He's one of our competitors and trying to get Amazon here.
Yeah.
You know, and Mayor Kasim Reed out of Atlanta took me under his wings, and he chairs the chair of the Transportation Committee with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and so I appreciate him. And then I don't want to leave out Mayor de Blasio of New York. He's been very helpful, and his wife is very big on mental health initiatives.
Yeah, she is,
and I've joined her group on that. So there are a number, I can go on and on.
Yeah.
Mayor Landrieu out of New Orleans, who's now heading the U.S. Conference of Mayors.
Yeah.
He and the mayor of Columbia, South Carolina, both flew into Houston a couple of weeks ago to stand with me, just as a reminder that Houston is not forgotten. So those are leaders that I look up to, learn from, have taken me under their wing. And what you will find is that regardless of what city you're in the United States or globally, mayors are facing some of the same issues all over the globe.
You know, a couple of mayors, and it's some that you've mentioned, the mayor of Los Angeles, the mayor of New Orleans, people have often mentioned in terms of national office.
Yes.
It seems to me at some level, mayors have a lot of real-world leadership experience in terms of dealing with a range of problems that certainly here in Texas we see sometimes the state legislature isn't taking care of. Will that day come when we look to mayors? And is that day here when we look to mayors as like, let's see what, I mean, I certainly look at some cities to see how problems are being solved.
Bob, I think that day is here.
Yeah.
Mayors are very resort oriented. It's all about getting things done because cities never close.
Yeah.
7 days a week, 24/7. What's happening on your street, in your neighborhood, in your city, critically important.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's how we operate. Okay, big policy initiatives, absolutely.
Yep.
But the question is, how do you effectuate change and make things happen? Keep the lights on, the buses running. Those are the things that are critically important. And I think you're going to find in this country that people will be looking more to mayors in terms of how do you move the states, how do you move the country forward. And there are a lot of what I think young, very positive mayors that are coming through, evolving, that people will look to.
We're in the nonprofit leadership studio, and we have a lot of nonprofit leaders. As sort of a final question before we do the fun questions, when you look at the nonprofits in the city, and certainly during the hurricane, we saw a lot of nonprofits coming, and the recovery, we see nonprofits. Tell us about sort of how you look to nonprofits in this city, because you've dealt with nonprofits, whether at the legislative level and certainly here in the city now.
Nonprofits serve an invaluable role in our city. And it is in large part because of who they are. They are nonprofit entities. They're very mission, purpose oriented.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not in it just and looking at the bottom line, so to speak. Although even as nonprofits, we have to focus on the bottom line.
Yeah.
But the reality is that there are a lot of things that will flow through a nonprofit that wouldn't flow in other areas, and their missions are very focused and very targeted. And we have a number of nonprofits that exist within our city, in any city, but certainly within the city.
There's some
of Houston.
Very good ones in Houston.
There's some very good ones. United Ways does an excellent job.
Yeah.
You know, you can go on and on that exist in our city. You can't make it without the nonprofits.
Yeah.
You literally cannot do it. You take the nonprofits out the arena, and things come to a halt.
Our city is better, isn't it, because of some of the
Absolutely.
things? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that, again, goes back to that collaboration. And I thought it was, not to dwell on the storm, but, calling on Baker Ripley and Catholic Charities and saying, I need your help. That was a big deal for those nonprofits.
And put a big check mark to all of those organizations.
Yeah.
Angela Blanket with Baker Ripley, outstanding. Catholic Charities, they're outstanding job. United Way doing an outstanding job. Because those are the entities that are meeting the needs of populations that but for nonprofits, their needs would not be met. Okay?
Yeah.
They are the ones that taking in people from immigrant communities and others, but for needs would not be met. Nonprofits that focus on seniors, Meals on Wheels and others, but for those needs would not be met.
Yeah.
Because once you put a profit component on it, it may be in the best interest of the organization not to provide those services. But these nonprofits, their mission dictate their purpose and what they do. And so can't say enough. The nonprofits within the city of Houston have really helped to elevate this city to another level.
Yeah, and they keep challenging, which is
and
nice.
they keep challenging.
Yeah,
and we need to keep challenging each other.
Yeah.
Now what I would say, there are thousands of nonprofits. What I would like to see is how we can leverage all of these nonprofits so that we are not. You don't have 10,000 nonprofits doing 10,000 different things.
Right.
Okay. Because you can do a little bit here and a little bit there, and no one can see the little bit that you've done. But when all of these nonprofits, when we are concentrated in, let's say, a geographical area, and we are leveraging on top of one another, then we can create that transformation that's needed in particular categories. That's what I'm trying to do with Complete Communities. Going into areas that have been underserved, under-resourced, inviting nonprofits and others to come in, and let's leverage the resources on top of one another so that we can create the greatest degree of change in the shortest period of time, and people can see what we are doing by leveraging our resources. Collaboration is key.
Yeah, collaboration is like your middle name, Mayor Turner. So final fun question for the evening.
Yes.
Your favorite restaurant in Houston?
Fogo de Chao.
Is it really? You love the Fogo de Chao, huh?
Yeah, no, I love me some Fogo. They love me too.
That's a great place, though,
I
isn't
just
it?
had my birthday celebration at Fogo de Chao.
You can't leave hungry from that place, can you?
No, you can't leave hungry, but I tell you, you better go to a treadmill after you leave it. Great place. I love the place.
Well, good. Well, next time we meet, we'll have it at Fogo de Chao. So, Sylvester Turner, Mayor Sylvester Turner, thank you so much for being here.
Having me. Thank you.
And would love
and
having
let me
you.
thank you for what you do. I can't leave here children at risk. Come on.
Yeah, thank you.
Now you and the organization have simply been stellar.
Thank
education, but for the education I've received, I would not be sitting here across from the table from you. Education is the key, especially for kids that are coming out of communities that don't have much. Okay, you give them the education, and you give them the key that will open up the door.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
And so, but for the education I received, I would not be the mayor of the fourth largest city in the United States of America.
I often say that historically in the United States, our best public policy for moving children from one economic class to a higher has been quality public schools, right?
If you want to destroy a city, a state, or a country, deny that kid that quality education, and you will deny your future.
Yeah, there's a lot of work. I have a job for a while. There's a lot of work to do on that. Thank you, Mayor Turner. Thank you guys very much. Thanks for being here with us on the Leadership Studio, the Nonprofit Leadership Studio. We'll see you next time. Keep up the great work, guys.